Greetings, good people. Welcome to the Judgment Zone, where we are fighting anti intellectualism one episode at a time. Listen, I'm going to get right into it because I don't want to hold you, but Congress just dropped a 111-page bill that says it will save college sports. So if you are a college athlete or the parent of a college athlete or the parents of a high school athlete that will be going to college, this is for you. I read it so you didn't have to. And let me tell you, somebody is getting saved, and it is just not who you think it is. Because when they name something after a bill, trust me, it's not what the headline says. I will tell you that. Anyways, May 27th, four senators, two Republicans, two Democrats, actual bipartisan ship has taken place in this economy. Can you believe that? Somebody call the news because it's been a long time since they agree on something, a bipartisan bill. But the question is, do you agree with this? So they named it the Protect College Sports Act. Okay. Cute name, but let's check the receipts. Here's the part they put on the flyer. Okay. This is, and I want you to hear me when I tell you because some of this stuff will be important for you and some of it might not be so important, but you should have the information so you know what's coming down the pipe. And so you can fight it if it's something you think is horrible. A national They have a national NIL standards, so your kid is not playing by 50 different states. Like every state right now in NIL, every state has something different. So in this bill, and these are the good things, in this bill, there's national state laws. Agents are capped at 5%. So NIL agents can't be, taking 25, 50% like some of them are because the sharks have been eating out here. Okay. This new NIL thing didn't really have a lot of parameters, and folks are getting in the game and they're just eating everything up. So they also have a 10-year scholarship guarantee. So a torn ACL does not torch your degree. This is to protect athletes who still want to get their degrees after dealing with something tragic, right? 5 years of medical coverage after the game is over. So I'm sure you understand that. A $60 million fund for brain injuries like CTE, the stuff nobody wanted to pay for once the stadium lights turned out, is finally being written into this bill. So these are good things. That sounds beautiful. That's something to be excited about, especially if your athlete plays football or soccer or a sport where concussions happen often. This is all good stuff. Now, here's the part they buried in the back. You know, that fine print? The same bill that we're talking about that have these protections in there, it hands the NCAA an antitrust exemption, which is a problem. When you hand them an exemption, that means you're not really protecting the students, the athletes. In plain English, this means legal cover will cap what athletes get paid. Okay? No, to limit how many times they can transfer. This bill will limit how many times they can transfer. This bill decides who stays eligible. This bill decides the exact rules athletes have been beating in court for years. They could be losing now under this bill. So they want it written into federal law, and that's what they're working for. And on my Substack, I'm actually going to lay out all of the pros and cons, right? That was just a little snapshot of here are a few cons, here are a few pros, but there's a lot more going on here. So I want you to read it with me. I want you to read it and leave some comments about it. They say they're going to protect athletes by limiting the athletes. The revenue gap between the big conferences and everybody else is up nearly 600% since 2002. Let me say that again, 600%. big conferences and everybody else. So big conferences are eating all the money, and the smaller conferences are getting very little. And the proposed fix is to hand the people who built the gap a federal shield. Hello? The people that are causing the disparity is who this bill is going to protect. I have 4 student athletes. I'm not watching this one from the cheap seats, okay? I'm all in the front row reading this, watching it, and seeing where it goes. So I want you to stay with me. Let me back up and tell you how we even got here. College sports has been the wild, wild west for a minute now. I'd said it before with the transfer portal and NIL, and they just opened up all these rabbit holes with no control. So it's been like the wild, wild west for a minute, and most people understand that the transfer portal is out of control. Okay, it's spinning like a slot machine at this point. Fake NIL deals dangled to lure 17-year-olds across state lines. Yeah, that's what's going on. Lawsuits stacked to the ceiling. Mm-hmm. That's what's happening. Schools cutting entire programs to feed the football machine. The House lawsuit blew the doors off the old amateur lie. It just did. And nobody had a rule book for what came next. They didn't. They just put this stuff out there and let it rip. Then last year, the House of Representatives tried a fix called the SCORE Act, and it flopped. It was dead on arrival. So the Senate went back to the kitchen. If any of these names sound familiar, you know why it's a problem. Cantwell, Schmidt, Coons, and Cruz. Anything, and I mean anything, that Cruz is involved with, you have to be skeptical of. You just do. This guy is like, I mean, how do I say this? Ted Cruz is like, I just think he's not even good for his constituents. He's not. I don't hear people, and I don't know who's voting for this guy, but I don't hear his constituents ever rallying for him. They just don't. And anything that he has his hands in is something we should be skeptical of because he's not trustworthy. He's not. That's the truth. But those are the names. Those are the reps that are involved with this. Cantwell, Cruz, Schmidt, and Coons. They say they spent hundreds, maybe thousands of hours negotiating this thing. And what they cooked up is genuinely the most serious attempt we have seen. Even though they have the negatives, this is probably the best thing we've seen in a while. I, I you take the good with the bad. I'm gonna put all the pros and cons in my Substack, and you can read that. But that's what's going on. So let me give credit where credit is due, because yeah, I'm trying. I'm not dishonest. I'm a little petty, but I'm really trying to see the positive in this, right? And there are. I'm not gonna lie. There are some things that really kind of bring this thing, wrap their arms around it. But I don't like athletes losing control of their ability to control their own destiny. I mean, it is what it is. The athlete protections in here, it's good. Could it be better? Yeah. Agents have to register and certify before they can rep your kid. I think that's wonderful because I've seen how this NIL thing has just gone left and it has been bad for some athletes. I have. Their cut is capped at 5%, and I think that's great. Coaches and team staff cannot overrule the medical staff anymore and push a hurt kid back onto the field. That's a great thing. There are independent health officers who do not answer to the athletic department. That's what will happen. And that needs to happen. They're not committed to that school, they're committed to the health of the kid. I think that's amazing. Heat, brain injury, sickle cell, asthma, actual standards. That is important. That is in this bill also. And this one matters to me as a mom. Listen, the scholarship follows the kid for 10 years after eligibility. I had to explain this to my husband why this was important. If a kid blows out their knee their freshman year, torn ACL, um, even CTE, and they have to take some time off, mental health issues, it can happen. I've seen it happen, especially to Ivy League kids. Some of them, I've seen it happen, have needed to take a year or two off. You still finish the degree. So we're not talking about just athleticism. We're talking about the ability to finish the degree when you recover from whatever the medical issue is. This is not charity. This is the bare minimum. Finally, on paper, it protects women and Olympic sports too. Didn't think about that, right? Schools have to keep the same roster spots they had in 2024 and 2025. So, I get a roster spot, but I get pulled up to the Olympics. I don't lose my spot. So after the Olympics over, I can go back to my team. You can't give my spot away. I mean, that's few and far between, in regards to how many cases, but it's important. It's important to know. And for those that are elite athletes that have that opportunity, they get protection. No more gutting volleyball, soccer, and track to fund a quarterback bidding war. That's what's going on here. As a Title IX believer and a sports mom, I'll take that. And the part I actually stood up for, the bill bars any conference that pulled over $1 billion last year from swallowing another conference. Translation: it blocks the SEC and the Big Ten from merging into one closed super league and locking everybody else out. Because if you don't put it in legislation, they will do it. They will do it. Greed is something we should all know this country is full of. So, again, it is protection. This, though, it's a real wall against real threat. And I think we have to look at it like that. So, why am I side eyeing this whole thing, though? I mean, that's definitely why. Ted Cruz. Every time. That's gonna be the answer every time. I don't trust nothing this dude do. Never, nothing, nothing. But it's because of the verbs. Every protection for the athlete comes wrapped around a restriction of the athlete. So everything they give them, they're finding something, another way to take control away. Does that make sense? One free transfer, move a second time, and you sit a year. That's okay. A revenue cap that decides how big the player's slice can get. Mm, and the crown jewel, an antitrust exemption that gives the NCAA legal armor to enforce all of it. Like, when you give them an exemption, you're basically saying you can't protect us. You can't protect the athletes. The same NCAA that has lost in court over and over, now the lawsuit is giving them an exemption. Make it make sense. That part, I don't get that. I just don't. The lawsuits were the only leverage these kids had, honestly. This bill quietly takes the sword out of their hand. So, again, you're at the mercy of the NCAA. Yeah, whatever. And don't take my word for it, though. Okay, take theirs. Athletes.org, you should go over there, says it's flat out not okay. They vehemently oppose this bill. They say it protects schools, conferences, and NCAA leadership at the expense of the athletes that it claims to be protecting. The National College Players Association called it an unprecedented federal assault on college athletes. Unprecedented? I, I, I beg to differ. I think there's been some other cases. The people this is supposedly for, lining up against, it just doesn't make sense. Like, but you need to know that it's out there. Here's the tell, though. The bill requires that 1/3 of the governing boards be current or recent athletes. That's a beautiful idea, but where were those athletes when this 111-page bill was being written? Why weren't they in the room? Not at that table at all. No athletes. No, that's not okay. They need to be at the table. The people who will live under these rules were not the ones holding the pen. They didn't even get a say. That's the whole game right there. That's the problem. They don't bring the voices in the room that need to be in the room when bills are crafted. And it's not just for sports. That's to let y'all know. When people are drafting bills, you should see who's actually on them. Are those people that have firsthand knowledge and experience about the situation and the life experience of an athlete? Because we know Ted Cruz don't know nothing about sports. Like, come on, come on. Now put your controller hat on with me, because this is a messaging masterclass. This is where we connect on my PR brain. Okay, watch the title. Always watch the title of bills when they come out. Protect College Sports Act. Not the Pay Athletes Act. Not the Athlete Freedom Act. Protect. Protect implies a threat. Yeah. Protect implies a threat. Somebody's losing, right? Not the Athlete Freedom Act. Protect. Protect implies a threat. Protect also implies a hero. And when you control the noun, you control who the public roots for. This is what I teach. Whoever names the thing wins the argument before the argument even starts. Call it stability, and you sound like an adult in the room. Call it a salary cap with a federal bodyguard, which is what ESPN basically called it, and suddenly people get it loud and clear. Both descriptions are true. This is the point. The fight over the bill is not really about football. It's about who gets to control the narrative, who controls the story. The schools have lobbyists, press shops, and a 111-page head start. Okay, the athletes have a hashtag and a press release. That's all they got. Guess who usually wins that fight? It's not the athletes. So here's my take. The bill is not evil, but it's also not a gift. It's a trade. Real protections for real leverage. Health coverage and scholarship guarantees in one hand, a cap and a transfer leash and an antitrust shield in the other. Whether the trade is fair depends entirely on one question they're hoping you don't ask. Who was in the room? Who was in the room? You got to think about that. I don't want kids represented by a system that wrote the rules for them, but without them. So there should be athletes in the room to have a say in this bill that was written. Protection that you don't get a vote in is not really protection, it's like supervision or control. Read the fine print every time, especially when somebody names the bill after the very people it limits. So remember, if you don't control the narrative, the streets will, and it will not be in your favor. That's the Chief CTRLer take. Now, I want you to hit subscribe on the YouTube channel so this finds your timeline next time. Drop your verdict in the comments. Are they protecting the athletes or protecting the people who profit off the athletes? I'm reading every single one. There's another drop that's going to happen soon, and it's a bill on youth sports. We're going to get into that too, because it's a lot of legislation going on right now in regards to athletes, sports, and money. That's what it comes down to usually. The full breakdown, the pros and the cons, the receipts, all of it will live on Substack. So make sure you head over there and get that. Come get a deeper dive on Substack. That's really what that is. Link is in the description. Control the mic, control the camera, control the room. and always control the narrative. Let me know your thoughts. Would you vote for this or against it? Okay, bye.